Welcome to the Saga of the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone, a podcast presented by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're reading and talking about the entire infamous 1990s Spider-Man Clone Saga. I'm Vincent Faust, and with me today are...
I'm Matt.
And that's Mike. And our sponsor today is water, because you need to stay refreshed.
Keep hydrated.
I guess my mic wasn't working.
That would be correct. So this episode, this time around, we are covering the story arc Back from the Edge. As discussed in the previous episode, the titles are now split in half, and we're now on to the first Peter Parker arc. It's being told in Amazing Spider-Man 395 to 396 and Spectacular Spider-Man 218 to 219. And the former series has a creative team of J.M. DeMatteis and Mark Bagley, and the latter has Tom DeFalco, who I think at this point is just plotting, and then the actual script is by Todd Saga, and Sal Buscema is drawing it. So how do things kick off? All right, so off the bat, we have some drug dealers doing their business, and Puma shows up with Nocturne to throw a wrench in their plans. Matt, what do you think about Nocturne?
Nocturne, kind of looks like, I guess, Storm if Storm was a vampire bat woman.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he was a vampire once though.
See, what really threw me off is I'm pretty sure there's a flashback and Nocturne is a white woman. So, but like, I totally thought she was African American based on like her Nocturne persona, but I guess her skin color changed when she was transformed.
Oh.
There's a flashback somewhere in here, and I swear she's white. I might have that wrong. But so Nocturne is a DeMatteis creation from his Spectacular run, which at this point is a few years ago, and she has some weird link to Vermin. And
of course.
Basically, she's like, she can fly. She has literal wings, and she's an empath, which is basically like a telepath, but instead of actual thoughts, it's emotions.
Yeah. Which is not. She sucks, and Puma sucks, and
every
Puma
character
sucks
in these books sucks.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
I like Puma. I think he's kind of cool. He's like one of those like anti-hero characters that Spider-Man fights with, and then like later on, it's like, oh, maybe we'll team up for this one time.
Yeah, I don't care.
kind of. I guess he's.
All right.
I don't know. I think he's kind of just thoroughly uninteresting.
So Puma, on the other hand, was created by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz in their amazing run in the mid-'80s. And that was like the black suit era, which I think there might be a flashback to that in this.
They reference it in like one panel.
At one point.
Yeah. And then Puma was heavily used by Jerry Conway in his late 80s, early 90s work in Web of Spider-Man and Spectacular. And we've read some of that for this podcast, where we saw that Thomas Fireheart, which is Puma's real identity, he took over the Daily Bugle to restore Spider-Man's reputation because there was some like debt misunderstanding thing. And while I was looking into some Puma stuff, I thought this was interesting. Apparently Matt's not a Puma fan, so I don't know how he'll feel about this. So Silver Sable's Wild Pack, they had an elite like occasionally used sub team like of the All-Stars basically. And it was Silver Sable, obviously, Sandman, Prowler, Puma, Rocket Racer, Will-O-the-Wisp, and Spider-Man. Now, I think that sounds kind of cool. Again, it's like these like
going to be on these panels that says that. I just want you to know.
It's like these anti-hero mercs that Spidey occasionally teams on with, but he doesn't actually like any of them. And
yeah, I don't like Silver Sable either. Prowler's cool, I guess.
Silver Sable and the Wildcat was a series in the 90s, and I think it ran like 30-something issues or something.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe 20-something. And that Obviously, it started Silver Sable, and Sandman was also on it. But then it had just a bunch of like no-name mercenaries that are part of Silver Sable's like organization. I feel like if that book starred this group, like with all these like anti-heroes, it would have been way more interesting. Now, whether it should have been a book in the first place, different question. So it's referenced in this. Puma's last major story arc at this point was an arc a few years ago in De Matteis, like at the very end of his spectacular. And so then he jumps into this. Though I will say, Puma never shows up again in the Clone Saga. And in fact, he doesn't have another major appearance until like some weird Wolverine arc, like 7 years after this.
Interesting. I'm fine with that.
And I'm not. I didn't even bother to figure out what happened to Nocturne.
I'm also okay with that. Nocturne doesn't matter.
So then in this story, we get Peter Parker. He's like snooping around in places.
But he's not Peter Parker.
Well, yeah.
He's the spider.
He's a spider.
Yeah. So the main entire point of this arc is like Peter Parker is the spider, and in the last arc, in the crossover where he meets Ben, like Peter's just basically cracking his fucking nuts, which was fueled by his parents coming back and them being fake and everything like that. And so he has this dual identity thing going on, and the point of this is to try and resolve that. But for now, he just acts like really fucking weird. I think it's actually funny because he has, like, we've complained so much about Ben Reilly's narration, where every third line he's like, but I'm not Peter Parker, I'm the clone. And, like, those are his memories. But, like, Peter says the exact same line.
The exact same thing. It's terrible. I was so excited to finally be done with that, and Pete's here doing the same thing.
He literally says, like, the lines that I swear Ben Reilly has said, where he's like, those aren't my memories, they're Peter Parker's.
Yeah.
And it's you just replace the word clone with like this whole like dual identity spider thing.
Oh yeah.
And so so Peter's like creeping on Aunt May's house, and we get these like not hallucination, like these memory ghost images, and then he does the same thing in Midtown High.
Yeah.
And then Puma and Nocturne show up, and a fight breaks out, and Puma ends up slashing Nocturne in the face.
Basically.
Which moves us on to the second issue. Halfway through this arc, but sort of also not. The weird thing is that Back from the Edge, it's a 4-part story, but it's really like 2 smaller arcs smashed together.
They're almost entirely unrelated.
Yeah, really the only, like you could, I mean, they continue like the thematic point of this arc, but otherwise like the plot point, there's a clear half point.
Mm-hmm.
It completely changes. So Puma runs off, and then Pete tries to help Nocturne, who just got slashed in the face and is bleeding. And Mike was reading next to me the nice little cameo where Pete says, "Too bad I can't be in 2 places at the same time."
And then Ben swings by.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This was the most enjoyable thing I saw in any of the 4 issues I read.
I thought that was funny. It's a nice little cameo, not super gratuitous.
Nah, that's fine.
So he wants to help Nocturne. Well, he has to decide between helping Nocturne, which is like the Peter Parker decision, and then chasing after Puma, which is the Spider decision. But he helps Nocturne, so he is on the way to recovery or whatever.
Mm.
And he can't take her to the hospital because she's a giant fucking bat lady. And
right.
he doesn't have enough time to take her to Dr. Kafka at Ravencroft. So what's his plan? What does he end up doing?
Well, originally he tried to take her back to her apartment.
Yeah.
And there are people there. I don't know if that's her family or it's
I
just.
think no. Actually, I have no idea because if we had read her previous appearances, maybe it is her family. But I just figured it was like because he says like life moves on, so I figured like people just bought her apartment.
Right, it's like new tenants. I mean, that makes more sense.
Uh,
Because then he decides to go take her on a rooftop and have an existential crisis, and like that's it.
but back to the apartment thing. This doesn't make any sense. His whole dilemma was she seriously needs help, so I need to take her to the hospital, but I can't take her to these two options. So he's gonna take her to her apartment. And maybe she had a first aid kit. I don't know.
Sure.
That was kind of dumb.
It's all bad. It's all bad.
I don't think it's terrible yet.
I hate this.
I
I
mean,
think
Nocturne's
is my
pretty
least
dumb.
favorite 4 issues we've read. It's so fucking boring.
I don't know. I think it's better than the Ravencroft bit.
It
But
no, because I at least like the Ravencroft bit has the cool fight with where Ben and Peter team up. This has nothing. It's just it's so fucking bad.
so while he's having his identity crisis on the roof, there is though I liked there's like a page with I'm pretty sure it's raining and he's like in silhouette where they do that thing where the costume's all black.
Yeah,
Because of shadow. It was a cool shot. And
it is.
then,
I'm not a big fan of Buscema's art, but I like that one panel.
Yeah.
It seems like with every issue we read, Buscema's art gets worse and worse.
I thought this was better than the Ravencroft art, actually, for the most part.
I mean, I really like Buscema. I don't know. So I can't really say that. And we should say while we're going through this, every once in a while we're getting 1 or 2 page interludes with keeping up with MJ, and she's making her way through Pittsburgh, reconnecting with her family. I think most of that is in the second 2 issues.
More so than here, yeah.
Yeah.
He talks to Gail, and that's
her sister.
Yeah,
Yeah, she patches things up with her sister, who she had ditched basically. And also,
It's very weird panel layout in that discussion, by the way.
Yeah, well, part of it is that in the original comic, like it was there, like you had to turn the book, like it was a full.
Oh, okay.
Like a landscape page and 2 pages of that, and so if you're reading it digitally, it's just like this giant.
Yeah, it's just like, what the heck is this? It's like this 9-panel grid that's not. I'm sorry, no, it's 6, like a giant 6-panel grid that's all like landscape. It's weird.
Yeah,
and it's the same 6 panels.
It's the same 6 panels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no variation.
Yeah. I mean, they could have done like some close-ups and certain stuff and everything like that.
But especially when you work with 6 panels with that much space, totally.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a little exposition dump. Like, we need 2 characters to talk to each other, so let's have them sitting. There's a 1-page sequence of Aunt Anna, MJ's aunt, visiting May in the hospital.
That's kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's a decent scene for the
like 40 times now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is it's not bad, but it's such a cliche in Spider-Man to talk to comatose Aunt May.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost a trope at this point. Like when we need a segue into something else, we're gonna have someone visit Aunt May and cry and talk to her as she's comatose before we get to the next scene. It's just like, great, I don't care. Like.
Gotta remind the reader, let everyone know, hey, May's dying. You should be sad.
Well, that's the thing. It's not. You're right. It's no longer she's in the hospital. She is dying.
She's dying.
She's dying.
So Puma attacks again, and then Nocturne grabs them both and makes a psychic link between them, and they feel each other's pain, all their angst and hurt. And Puma turns back into Fireheart. I mean, we didn't read Puma's last appearance, but I guess Puma's like particularly feral now. Like he can't fully transform back and forth. And I couldn't tell if it was just Bagley's different style since he drew the first issue, but they were drawing him differently, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
usually have like the ears in that design. So they were doing like a more feral kind of appearance.
Bagley's Puma looked more feral than how Buscema draws him, at least.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting because I was kind of surprised by Bagley's Puma because his Spider-Man is so like it's so like curved and like we think of it. It's not the same, but we see the influence that would eventually evolve into Ultimate Spider-Man. But his Puma is very jagged and feral looking, which makes sense for the purpose of this.
For sure.
So Nocturne helps them, and then Nocturne and Puma just bounce, and they don't matter anymore.
Just leave.
And so now we move into the second half, but like we said, it's literally just a totally different arc. And so Mike, who showed up?
Some guy claiming that he was Daredevil because it didn't read like any Daredevil I've ever read.
So Mike is our resident Daredevil fan, and this is late 1994, so he's in his
really crappy Fall from Grace armor.
Yeah, it's Fall from Grace armor. So that he's actually been in that armor for about a year from now.
Good God, I didn't know. How long did it stay around? I thought it was like a blinking it was over kind of thing. It stayed for a whole year?
It stays for almost 2 entire years.
Oh my God.
So that, like Mike said, it was in the Fall from Grace storyline, which is obviously in the Daredevil title. And that run was written by D.G. Chichester, and the armor was created by Scott McDaniel, and he drew a lot of that run.
I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't hate the armor if the silver plates weren't there.
Yeah, I like the colors and like the overall design as far as like where the colors are placed and everything.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Billy Club things on his arms?
I prefer them on his hip or his leg.
I mean, obviously, yeah, but like I think they're kind of cool, at least in the context of like this gimmick armor, where he has like them on his arms. It's kind of slightly reminds me of like how Bruce has like the like spikes on his gauntlets or something like that. And
yeah, but it just feels weird because I feel like it's strapped to his forearm, right? So if he's like he has to if in order to use them, he has to deliberately like punch someone with their forearm, and I feel like that's equally going to hurt your forearm as it is going to hurt your regular arm. Like the things that Batman has the spike things, but like those have been more of a practical tool of like he can use them to get people out that are tied up really quickly and stuff.
Well, I guess the idea that I think we see some of this, like basically, like you said, he can like block certain things, and I guess he can like side swipe, but also like he seems to have like some, instead of just throwing them, I think he can like launch the billy clubs from his arm, and then after that, then he's going to grab them, and then he can keep throwing them and using them and stuff like that. But I don't mind those too much. It's just the actual like armor plates, which are like on his shoulders, and then like a weird place like on his thighs. Those ruin it completely.
Oh yeah, like I said, I don't even hate the double D's logos being on the upper breastplate. Like I think they work fine there. I prefer them in the middle. Something tells me this is where they got for the 2003 movie. This is where they got the idea to do the double D's up on the upper chest plate, like the costume in that movie, and that kind of makes me hate it. I hate that costume in general, but.
So he's been in the costume for about a year, and then he goes back to it about a year from now. And
why does he go back?
Popular demand.
Pretty much. I mean, that's the outside story. But the run where he gets back in the regular costume is, funnily enough, written by J.M. DeMatteis, who's now at this point writing.
Yeah. I guess last thoughts on Daredevil's costume. It's one of the cleanest looking costumes. I don't know what it is about sleek red costumes like the Flash and Daredevil. They have such good costumes. You don't need to fuck with it. Just let it be.
Honestly, I don't like anything about this Fall from Grace armor thing. I don't like it at all.
No,
I like the Shadowland costume better, and the Shadowland costume is bad.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like they gave him the Shadowland suit, and then they switched it up very slightly, and like the all new Marvel now, where like the boxers are red, and I think the boots are red. Like it's red on red. Just don't fuck it up. Just don't fuck with it. It looks fine the way it is. Like it seems like what every 10, 15 years someone wants to try to tweak it. Stop trying to tweak it. It's like stop. It doesn't need it. It works fine the way it is.
I mean, it's worth noting the obvious that that costume exists because someone decided to tweak things. That being Wally Wood, like 7 issues into the series.
Well, yeah, but it is funny. But like, yeah, Wally Wood tweaked it, but guess what? He perfected it, so you don't need to go back. But like, there have been subtle added things. Like, I think his dad's like his boxers from when he was fighting. Like, I don't know exactly when those were added to the outside of the suit or implied to be outside of the suit. That might be Man Without Fear. But like that's like subtle things that they put in that I think they're cool. But like other than that, you don't really need to tweak anything with Daredevil's costume.
So the reason he's in this dumb costume is that like Electro came back and there was just all kinds of things that he was dealing with. He fights Venom. Of course, it's the 90s, so
everyone fights Venom.
Daredevil comes across Venom, and he's just dealing with all these like bigger threats. So, and his as usual, his personal life is just a complete mess. So he's like, I'm gonna kill myself, and I need like actual armor because it's the 90s and everything's more violent, more threatening.
Yeah.
Which gets us into that point that so Matt Murdock allegedly died, and so he's separated himself from his civilian persona, and now he's just Daredevil. So I haven't read Fall from Grace. I'm assuming he moved into a new apartment, and he has zero social interaction with anyone ever. Or maybe he has a fake name, like Mike Murdock.
Mike Murdock.
So basically, the point of this second arc is that it's paralleling how Daredevil is dealing with his secret identity to Peter Parker. Like, is Spider-Man gonna kill off Peter Parker as well? Also, to match his edgy armor, Daredevil is kind of. I mean, I don't know if Mike picked up this, but I think he's definitely written like more aggressive and brutal than usual, I think.
Yeah, he seems very overly aggressive for some reason. Like the only time really Daredevil ever gets at this point, like, is when Matt's like taken to the brink, which I guess he kind of is at this point. But like off the top of my head, like he's just like overly beating criminals down. Like, and I felt like, I mean, obviously I haven't read Fall from Grace, so maybe this does like super transform, but like it feels like he'd have to have something truly traumatic to happen. Like you guys haven't read Brubaker's run, but like there's parts in that where he literally like stuff happens with his wife and he's literally like jumping off rooftops and throwing people off of them and deliberately catching them and like beating the living crap out of them. Like it doesn't feel like that, like the stuff that's happened is that significant. But I haven't read Fall from Grace, so I really can't comment. But like, yeah, he's being pretty overly aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So then, classic Daredevil foe, the Owl, Leland Owlsley. He shows up.
I've never seen him.
Yeah, so he's in his original appearance, which dates back to like the Silver Age, and I guess I don't know. Miller never used him, right? Is he in Miller's run?
I can't remember honestly off the top of my head.
I'm not sure. So I don't know when he was drastically updated. I'm pretty sure Steve Ditko did Steve Ditko drew like 2 or 3 issues of Daredevil, and I think it's actually like right after Frank Miller's like original run, and I think that might have been an Owl arc. I'm not really sure though. So the Owl, we get some of his whole backstory, and he's also going through some identity anxiety, just like Peter Parker. So it's all parallels. And then Matt, what class? This is a Daredevil Spider-Man team up, so they also have some of their villains have to team up. What classic Spider-Man villain shows up?
Naturally, they bring in another bird-themed villain. We've got the Vulture here, who has significantly more hair than I've ever seen him with before.
Yeah. So
and a terrible, terrible costume.
Yeah, Vulture has this totally ridiculous, like, mech suit kind of costume. And he's like de-aged. I don't know, some shit happened.
Was it the vampire thing? Because like a vampire.
He said something about like the vampire thing, but I don't really know. I don't want to know either.
No.
Didn't he get some nice similar armored up suit though recently? Did Zdarsky do something like that?
Yeah, Zdarsky gave him a. It's not as ugly as this one, but he gave him a similar armored costume. Yeah.
I think the Vulture, Adrian Toomes, is just despite how much Michael Keaton tried and he did well. I think within comic books, Vulture is just one of those hokey Silver Age villains that you just have to lean into that. And
yep.
You don't have to necessarily make him like a total joke, but he should look like a total joke.
The Vulture's never going to be cool. He's not.
I'm not going to speak ill of Michael Keaton because I think it's the only time Vulture was ever cool was in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was fine in the movie.
Yes.
But let's keep him in
the comics. He's not going to be cool.
No, not at all. I just don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to be talking trash on the great Michael Keaton.
So then we talked about how Peter had some ghost visions a few issues ago, and now we go back to the MJ subplot, and she has her own ghost visions because she's already reconnected with her sister, and now she's going to reach out to her father. And in these visions, we see that her father beat her and her sister.
Yeah.
This is not a good dad.
Not so much. Bagley's MJ, I guess she's like, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years older than she will be in Ultimate Spider-Man. But she looks very recognizable as you know, this is Mark Bagley drawing Mary Jane Watson. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same facial features and everything.
But at the same time, I'm sure it's just a product of the 90s, but there's like, I think when she has this vision, she's like in her night robe or something. Mm-hmm. It's a little 90s like bad girl art influenced by Harlan. Whereas we've had minor arguments about Buscema's MJ. I think Buscema's never exploited of MJ as far as the way he draws her. I looked it up. I don't think MJ's father technically beat his wife. He just verbally abused her, but he did beat his children. So there's some nuance there.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I think his wife left him when he beat Gale for like questioning something about his writing. And he is a writer. And then in these MJ scenes, the lettering, which it's from MJ's narration, they use cursive. And I don't think this should ever be used in comic books.
I hate it. So it's so jarring to go back and forth between her narration and the speech. It's just it's terrible.
I hate cursive so much because it's never printed well in a way that I can read.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I really don't know how much of this is just the fact that like cursive in general, it's used way less nowadays in the digital world and everything. And like maybe it's just that we're slow and stuff, but like it is reproduced poorly a lot, and it's just pain.
Like I remember when you were reading those early issues where some of the scans just weren't great, and it was just like I can't read this. Like it hasn't aged well. Marvel does their best to convert some stuff digitally, but I just think cursive's maybe best left in the past. Like I get the aesthetic need for it to make it look like they're writing in a journal or something, but it always looks bad.
Yeah.
So, as we were saying with the Daredevil stuff, Peter basically wants to learn how to kill himself, or at least that's what he's considering.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines is that he's trapped between the spider and the man. So he's the hyphen.
He is the hyphen.
And then there's this weird-ass scene where Daredevil takes Spider-Man to his own grave. And he's like, if I did kill myself, this is why I did it. This is how I did it. And you should do it too. It's pretty great.
It's weird. It's just weird. I like seeing Matt and Pete hang out, but neither of them are themselves, and it's really weird.
I mean, the closest we got to that, though, is the scene at the end of that sequence where Pete says, hey, we should hang out, grab some beers, see a movie. And Daredevil's just, like, has this fucking, like, pissed-off face. And then Pete's like, or we could go hunt the owl. And then you see this little smile.
Those 3 panels are the only part of these 4 issues that I like.
Yeah.
I think it's really cute. I like that a lot.
And then we figure out Vulture and the Owl's plan, and I don't totally understand this. Do you guys know what the fuck they're doing?
Okay, so they're putting toxins on the bird's talons, and then they're going to release the birds so they kill people. Because I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's.
I'm trying to get over how bad Vulture's suit looks. I really wasn't paying attention.
It's like specifically to kill people who know them from their past lives, so that they can just do the same thing Daredevil did and just become only their villain personas. But it's not clear because earlier I swear that Vulture says something like the virus deletes people's memories or something, but then it also kills them. So I don't understand what the point of the first effect is.
There isn't any?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I forgot that the owl just literally has like Wolverine claws, which are kind of cool in like a really dumb way.
It's kind of cool in a really dumb way. The owl also, throughout this entire story, it's just shocked at how terrible the Vulture is. It wants nothing to do with it. But he's still hanging out with him.
Yeah.
Then just leave.
And so the finale of the 3rd issue, one of those dumb birds touches Spider-Man. And he has the virus.
Yeah.
He's got the avian flu.
Yeah, he is bird flu. What did you guys think of the cover for the last issue? I think it's kind of.
Why does it look like it just? It looks like a children's book, kind of, with how many colors are going on about it, and like the way it's so dark in the inking. It doesn't look like a comic. It looks like some sort of activity book, or like. Actually, what it reminds me of is remember like early CD-ROM PC games.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
I love that it says Spider-Man is dying. Guess starring Daredevil. Like.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's amazing.
Is it too late to save the life he's fought to reclaim?
And it's in the foreground. It's like Spidey trying to figure out how to save himself, and Daredevil's just sitting in the back, like
he's like, I don't know what to do. Brooding.
And
then Peter's just like, yeah, this might as well happen.
Mike got caught off guard and almost scared for a second on this first splash page because he thought the entire book was going to be like that.
Well, that first page is fucking terrible.
I like it. I think it's hilarious.
I don't. What is he going for with this? Why?
Well,
I don't.
the thing is, I also don't understand it because they never make it clear what this poison actually does. Because it's like this. So this first page, it's like Daredevil's face, like really jagged and creepy looking. It's supposed to look like a devil. And so it's like, is Pete hallucinating this? But then he never displays any like similar symptoms ever again.
No.
So I don't understand that at all. But I thought it was a cool visual for that one page.
I didn't. I think it looked like ass, and I don't know how it got past editors.
Yeah, I see what they're going for. I don't like it.
You know, my 3-year-old niece draws better than that.
Savage criticism. Then Daredevil refers to the bird that poisoned Peter as a vulture, because it's from the vulture. But I swear to God, it looked like an eagle. It definitely didn't look like a vulture. And I mean, I'm not a bird expert out here, but
yeah,
It's only an expert on bird law.
So then the owl, he basically puts in Spider-Man and Daredevil on the whole plan. And he's like, hey, maybe I'm going to help them, where I don't want him to die. But then the Vulture shows up just to be a dick. And then we get back to the MJ stuff.
Brother.
Yeah.
Right?
What was that?
He keeps calling Owl his brother.
Yeah.
I guess because they're both bird villains. I don't. It's also, again, their relationship is weird. I don't know what they're going for with it.
Yeah. So then we get back to the MJ plot, and she finally confronts her father. And he's a writer, and he always wanted to write his great American novel, but he never got to it. And he keeps a photo of his dead wife that he abused and abandoned. So my meta commentary here is MJ's dad, Stan Lee, is his wife, Jack Kirby. I'm totally kidding, but I've been watching I watched the Robert Kirkman Secret History of Comics, and they talk about, obviously Stan Lee has this great American novel thing, and there's the split. So I read that into it for no reason.
I think that's definitely what they're going for with this. Yeah, his wife is Jack Kirby.
It would be more interesting that way. Like, how Jack Kirby's God in the Fantastic Four?
Right.
It's actually MJ's mom. That would.
And then their daughter is Ramita's creation.
So then the Vulture does have an antidote, even though he told the owl he doesn't have it earlier.
Yep.
But then spoilers, it's not an antidote. And so Pete is trying to figure out what's going wrong with him. And how'd you feel about this thing where he like reveals his secret identity to Daredevil, or who is not Matt Murdock?
Well, he said his own name in the previous issue. Like, he knows this is Matt, even if Matt's pretending he's not Matt.
Yeah.
So like,
the best part about this is the hindsight of Daredevil saying, "You're awfully cavalier with your secret identity, aren't you?"
Yeah. Yeah, they both had mind wipes for their secret identities.
Yep.
yeah.
But MJ, ultimately, she and her dad do catch things up, and they're fine, despite their shitty past. But I looked into this, and I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I'm like 90% sure that MJ's dad never shows up in a comic book again. If he does, Matt, you'd probably know better than I do, but I couldn't find anything saying that he does. I'll probably double check that later, but I think that's kind of crazy.
I know Gail does.
Yeah,
I'm actually not sure if her dad does or not.
But I feel like if that is the case, I feel like that's a huge missed opportunity because MJ was still like the second most important character in the Spider-Man books for the next 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you think, some Christmas or Thanksgiving story, that's the perfect setup.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Spider-Man and Daredevil, having sort of figured things out, they hunt down their foes to try and get the antidote. And Spidey is showing some ambiguous symptoms, as we said. And then, did you guys like the meditation scene?
It was a nice panel, but other than that, I didn't think it was. I thought it was like, what? All right.
I mean, I've never seen Daredevil do this before. Michael, have you seen? Is this a thing that Matt regularly does, sit on a rooftop and meditate?
I've seen him in meditation poses, never on the top of rooftops and stuff.
Okay.
Usually, I think it's times in Bet and Brubaker's run where because in the so Matt, as a lawyer, he's a very wealthy guy.
Sure.
Or at least he's able to afford some nice real estate in New York City. So in the basement of his loft place, he has this whole monastery thing going on and he would go down there and spar, he would meditate down there. But it's something he has done before, but I've never seen him just up and do it at on the sides of the building. I think there's also a time when in Frank's run where he's training with stick. He's got a blindfold around his eyes and he's trying to catch an arrow. Because during that time, he thinks he's lost his powers and stuff.
He doesn't use his deprivation tank like in the Ben Affleck movie.
Yeah, I was just about to bring it up. Yeah, that's also where the deprivation tank comes from. Which I guess when they made the movie, it's I guess Daredevil's a nude, pastely wet vampire. That's what he sleeps in.
They missed the boat by just a few years. If it had come out at the same time as Twilight, just imagine. So they show up
at the beginning of the 2003 movie. You'd think he's a vampire.
So Daredevil is going to handle the Vulture, and what does Peter Parker do? He literally fights birds.
Yes, he fights the vultures. They're vultures. I think they're vultures.
Yeah, in this, yeah, I think they're all vultures.
Yeah, they are.
So it ends with Al giving Spidey the antidote, and then Al and Vulture, I think they fuck off, right? They don't.
Yeah, they don't fly away.
Right? Yeah.
They fly away and shit.
And then they fly away off panel. It doesn't show them leave. Yeah. I guess they just go.
Did you guys like the dual Peter and MJ page though?
No, I hate pages like that.
Really? I liked it.
I dig it. It's fine.
I don't like them because it always catches me on how I'm supposed to read it.
Yeah.
Sure, I get that.
So it's a page split down the middle, and one half is narration Peter, his conclusion of this arc, and then is MJ.
MJ's narration is probably the hardest to read on this page than any other.
Yeah,
it's not that it's cursive as much as it's real. I don't know, kind of jammed together. It just
really close together. The spacing on it is not great either.
Yes.
So they've now both resolved their personal crises and they've settled with their past. And MJ is going to come back to New York, and she has big news, which we've already spoiled because it was pretty obvious in an earlier reference.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, we know what
Not
happened.
only that, is it spoiled? Can you tell on the plane the way she goes after and rushes to her nephew's need as well as her sister does? The hints are all there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she's coming back to New York, and then the final thing is the antidote, which has flipped back and forth on whether it exists and whether it's real. Turns out it's tap water.
It's tap water.
So Peter takes a nice swig of New York City tap water,
which is great. I love that the Vulture put some tap water in a vial. I'm gonna get him. It's gonna be great.
The best part is that that would have totally fucked up his alliance with the owl when he gave the owl to possibly use it on one of his accomplices. And so Peter's dying, or he's really sick. So that's where things go with Peter next. Otherwise, and we know MJ's coming back and she has big news. Otherwise, we don't really know what's on the horizon next for Peter. We talked obviously about how this is essentially actually two separate arcs, but I had an interesting thought. I don't know how you guys will react to this. I felt like Mark Bagley, I thought his style was slightly different in the second issue that he did, basically in the second arc. I thought it seemed more like...
Yeah, it's very slightly different.
I thought it seemed like darker and like more cohesive with Buscema's as opposed to the first half, where you can definitely, you can more so tell the difference between them.
I agree.
And some of that might just be the plot and the characters involved, but it definitely wasn't as seamless as like the Ben Reilly stuff, where Stephen Butler and Tom Lyle are pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, that stood out to me. So do you guys have any final thoughts on this arc?
Well, yes. Number one, it's over. Number two, hopefully we can get back to Peter Parker being the Spider-Man that we're more familiar with, because I am so sick of this mopey, angry all the time, fucking Spider-Man. Like
something tells me.
Oh, something tells me it's not. It's not done.
It's not gonna happen. Yeah.
Which is why it's
about
more
to
of a
die.
pleasure to meet Ben, because he's much more proactive about trying to actually be a hero. At least that way.
Yeah.
At least I felt that way after Venom. I felt that way after Venom.
It's a shame that I don't know, seem to enjoy reading Ben more than Pete. I guess that's what they're going for, right? That's the point of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely intentional.
Well, that's the thing. Besides Mark Bagley art, I really don't care about the Peter Parker issues at all.
No.
Because I don't like Buscema's art, and the writing is just the writing is structured in such a way that it's the way I feel it is. It's written like I'm not supposed to like Peter anyway, and I don't.
There's that, and also Dave Mateus is so wordy and dense compared to the other three people writing these books.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, no, we had that moment because I was reading it and I looked over to you. I'm like, are the Amazing issues longer? Because they were taking me longer to read.
There are times when it almost feels like DeMatteis is parodying himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the actual next thing that we're getting into is the Web of Life arc with Ben Reilly. And we're finally, as far as publication date, we're finally moving into 1995, which is three of our birth years.
Yeah.
And when we eventually get back to Peter Parker, if the next arc is called Web of Life, what do you think the Peter Parker arc is called?
Web of Death?
Web of Death.
Correct. All right. So that's next on the horizon.
Great.
So
I saw the next issue in the collection is a flip book. Will we be reading that?
I believe the flip of that is some of the Ben Reilly backstory stuff, which we read before.
Okay.
It was just published at that time. All right. So thanks for watching, and tune in next time for more Ben Reilly. And Billy will probably make an appearance again.
Yeah, Billy was gone this weekend because he went back home, and we would like to wish Billy a very happy 19th birthday. He's back home this weekend.
Oh, happy birthday, William.
Adios.